Because of disruption of our cultural lifestyle at the grassroots, many of our people don't know who they are. Many of our people don't know what it is to be an African. And that's why we speak better English than our own mother tongue. That's how we are better in cooking the Western dishes than our own Mukimo food. Because these things were imposed on us, not accidentally, through a plan of making us a lesser being, a lesser subject, and eventually creating a scenario where we can destroy ourselves. The retrogression we are going through is a global New World Order protocol planned by powers that have beyond our presidents.
Do you think the presidents we have right now across Africa, majority of them are also imposed onto us?
All of them have been imposed. And even the very good one, Mandela, Nkrumah, Kenyatta's, they were allowed to rule under very strict conditions. They did the very good few things they did that were positive, under extreme difficulties. And many of them were saying it. Even our late President Moi said it severally. Hii mambo mimi staki, lakini nifanye nini? He got into that under very strict conditions. They have limits as to what they can do. And a very good example is the late Tanzanian President Magufuli. When he challenged the COVID, he said, we don't need the vaccine. We don't need those COVID medicines that are being imposed on us. We have our own herbal medicine. He didn't last a month. He died. He was exterminated.
Have you faced any challenges in your journey?
I've been poisoned more than 6 times in those international conferences I've been to. Most of my colleagues have died as I wash. A lot of traditional healers of Kenya were poisoned in Egypt. They died, I think more than 12 of them died. I am aware I'm an enemy of many, particularly those who are articulating Neo-Colonialism, because I'm confronting Neo-Colonialism.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of LNS. My name is Lynn Ngugi and I'm happy we get to, just come together for another conversation where we get to learn and relearn. And as I said, 2025, we are very intentional about bringing you thought-provoking and meaningful conversations because I believe we as Africans, we really need to know and understand where are we going. My guest today has really been recommended on the platform and I cannot wait to hear what he has to share with us because I have a lot of questions and I hope that he will just be open and tell us, even as a country, are we headed towards the right direction? I'm about to let him introduce himself, but before I do that, of course, I have to say thank you so much to you guys for just being active participants of our work. You've subscribed, you comment, you recommend, and I say hakuna kitu mbaya kama sometimes upike chakula na hakuna watu wanakula. So I appreciate you for tuning in, and always remember you can tell us on the comment section what your take home will be after this conversation, and also to say thank you so much to our incredible partners who always come through to support us on the platform. So in case you're watching this from diaspora and you want to send money to your loved ones back at home, why don't you try tap send? It's very fast, very reliable, and also they have great rates. And if you use my promo code Lynn, you'll be able to get a bonus on the numbers appearing on your screen. And of course, to say thank you to my incredible team that gets to put this work together. I've said you get to see me in front of the camera, but it takes an entire team to be able to put this together. And now, of course, without further ado, please allow me to let my guest introduce himself so that we can kickstart the conversation. Sir, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
How is your year?
Yeah, good.
Yes.
2025 looks like it's a bright year.
Mm-hmm.
The climate is good.
Yeah.
And the beginning was good after the Christmas celebration.
Yes.
So we are really ready to get rolling.
All right. And we are also ready for this conversation. But before we can even go any further, anyone that is tuning in for the very first time, and they may be seeing you also for the very first time, could you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
My name is Dr. Githae. I'm the proprietor of the School of Alternative Medicine and Technology, and also the proprietor of African Indigenous Knowledge and Traditional Medicine Training Institute. Mm-hmm. The mandate of the two institutions is to research into the lost African Indigenous knowledge, which has made us who we are, which gives us our identity in the world, and also to reorganize it, repackage it, and prepare it to pass it on to emerging generation, because a need has arisen for us to look back to where we came from, because of the retrogression we have gone through, particularly here in Kenya, during the last 60 years since our independence. Retrogression in that where we were feeding ourselves, now we have to get food from elsewhere. Where we were running our own schools, which incorporated our indigenous knowledge, now we are on educational protocol that is truly foreign, that is turning out massive numbers of tamaking graduates, people who have the papers but can't deliver, can't create an employment for themselves. Sometimes, quite a number of them are not even employable, because the educational protocol is totally the opposite of the indigenous educational protocol, which was participatory, where young children were brought up, where they interacted freely with their parents, their grandparents, even their great-grandparents were applicable. That way, they interacted with the people who had the knowledge they need to sustainably adapt to the reality of their ecosystem and the reality of their era. The educational protocol, where young children are alienated from the family, from their mother, from their father, from their grandparents, their cousin and others, and they are taken to a strange environment for too long, during the most formative years, primary, secondary, and then college. By the time they come back home, they are strangers in their own environment. They are strangers in their own family. They missed the really very relevant knowledge they need to coexist sustainably with the ecosystem where they are born and where they are about to live and express themselves during their lifetime. It is because of that that the concept of the School of Alternative Medicine and Technology came in. A school that had the mandate to research into the lost indigenous knowledge in in education, in engineering, in agriculture, and in medicine. And the African Indigenous Knowledge and Training Institute is supposed to go beyond Kenya. The School of Alternative Medicine Kenyan, basically, or East African, basically. But we realize we have a lot of other African indigenous knowledge in South Africa, in West Africa, in North Africa, that we may need, especially now that we lost the basics. So, as African, I'm creating a platform where all practitioners of African indigenous knowledge and traditional medicine, wherever they are in Africa and even abroad, we should start conversing together, exchanging notes, exchanging ideas, so that we can develop a framework of modern African indigenous knowledge, modern in that it conforms to the crisis we are in. It is oriented to addressing the crisis we are in of lost identity, lost dignity, lost integrity, and lost sustainable way of life. Sustainable way of life implies a scenario where you are born, you grow, and live as you coexist with whatever else you are supposed to live with. Be they plants, be they animals. So the two institutions are founded on the concept of natural health and wellness. Natural health and wellness implies a scenario where we sustain our own health as we coexist with what nature created us to live and grow with. A good example of a natural health and wellness scenario is in the Aberdares and in the Mount Kenya, where diverse animals coexist with one another and have coexisted for millennia. and have been able to maintain a sustainable balance. They have no hospitals there. They have no doctors there. They have no laboratories there. Yet, the buffaloes, they are healthier than our cattle. The zebras are healthier and more elegant than our donkeys, than our horses, because they coexist within, in a way that respects other natural entities that they are supposed to live with, that they are supposed to interact with, that they are supposed to complement one another. The Western lifestyle we embraced, it has a neo-colonial connotation. Neo-colonial in that it was planned for us. It was imposed on us. And that it is not relevant to our needs. And it is not relevant to our ecological status. That's why we have destroyed our soil through pollution. We have destroyed our natural water through pollution and the air. And then we are eating toxic food, drinking toxic water, and this is how we have the scenario of proliferation of diverse diseases, some of which were strange to our people: the diabetes, the hypertension, the arthritis, the cancers. In natural health and well-being scenario, the water must be maintained clean. The soil must be maintained clean. It must be nourished with organic manure, organic fertilizers, not the artificial fertilizer that has chemicals that have a residual effect, that kill the microorganisms we need in the soil, that gravitate to our waters, contaminate our air. So the mandate of the School of Alternative Medicine and Technology and the African Indigenous Knowledge and Training Institute, Traditional Medicine Training Institute, is to collect all those knowledges that enhanced the survival of the African for over 150,000 years. That implies we are the oldest civilization on earth. Archaeological evidence tells us that Africa has had human civilization for 150,000 years. The second civilization that is closest to us are the people of Europe, the Europoid, who are only 40,000 years. The Asiatic people, Chinese, Japanese, we are copying, we are emulating, are only 6,000 years old. The older civilization is, the more sustainable the way of life of that civilization is. That sustainable way of life is the African way of life. It's the one that was compromised by colonialism and neo-colonialism. And it's the one that we have to re-establish again. So the mandate of my school, the mandate of my institute is to collect whatever is available in terms of knowledge, in agriculture, in education, in medicine, that is consistent with the survival of the African. We bring it together, reorganize it, repackage it, and then pass it on to emerging generations in Africa, so that sooner or later we shall recapture our lost dignity, integrity, and identity. The scenario in Kenya now is we are neither Asian, nor European, nor Africans. If you go to India, Indians are Indians.
Ooh.
Pick their language freely. They articulate their own religion. Go to Japan. In spite of their civilization as a global think tank, they still have maintained their indigenous culture. This is what we lost. This is what we need to reawaken. The African Renaissance Nelson Mandela talked about, the African Renaissance Nkrumah talked about, was about getting us back to our roots. Picking the basics of our cultural practices that enhance our survival and polishing it up to an extent that it can make us better in coping with the reality of the globalization or the global village scenario. And I think the aspect of education comes in, the aspect of health, and among them all, the dietary habits of our people. We are what we eat. When our soil is polluted, when we embrace genetically modified foods, maize, beans, vegetables, we compromise our own health and our own survival. Because these are not sustainable entities. And when we consume GMOs, genetically modified food, there is enough evidence that they compromise our immunity, that they interfere with our genetic makeup. And sooner or later, we stop being African. I don't know what we shall be. So my institution and my fraternity are looking at how we can quickly correct the existing indigenous seeds of maize, beans, pumpkins, sweet potatoes, and indigenous fruits as quickly as possible, and propagate them as quickly as possible, and then pass it on to people who are ready for them, so that sooner or later we are on food items that are chemical free, food items that are free from genetic interference, food items that will enhance our survival, our natural health, and the potential for our prosperity. How can we be the clad of man, the clad of human civilization, and ultimately end up being beggars? We are begging because we digressed from the basics that made us what we are. We are dying en masse, prematurely, from diseases and from old age, because of digressing from the type of food that God or nature intended us to survive on, and a lifestyle that is sustainable, but we are embracing a lifestyle that is too hectic to sustain natural health. We do what I'm talking about through practice. I've practiced African traditional medicine for 55 years now. My practice made me recognized by WHO, where I was recruited as a consultant, and I was with the WHO for 12 years. I was also recognized and appreciated by the Commonwealth Secretariat, and even facilitated me with some training equipment that are enhancing my work. I have worked closely with UNESCO as a scientist, and in the field of agriculture, I'm in the process of starting an aggressive campaign on basket farming and livestock farming in enclosures, so that people who don't have farms can grow their own organic food. People who need fresh meat can keep their own chicken in their backyard, along the walls of their house, because it can be done. With space technology, within which people have gone to the moon severally, when I still had my gray hair, it is possible to grow all the food we need, we as Kenyan and African, wherever we are. The technology in that agricultural approach is there. We still have virgin soils in Aberdares, in Mount Kenya, and we still can get clean water that will enhance production of organic food, so that we maintain our health naturally.
So allow me to ask, what is the role of the global north in this retrogression? What is the end goal here? When you say that this is neo-colonialism, these things were planted in us, these things were planned for us, what's the end goal here?
The contribution of the North in getting us to the predicament we are in is apparent, it's straightforward. What is neo-colonialism? What is colonialism? Colonialism is a scenario where people are subdued by others. They are governed by others, They conform to what these others tell them. Neo-Colonialism is a scenario where you are cheated, you are independent, and you are given your own flag, your own constitution, but yet there are linkages that compel you to do certain things that are retrogressive to your own survival and your own prosperity. And these are the issues we need to re-examine. And as we re-examine them, we develop an alternative lifestyle. And that's where African indigenous knowledge, African traditional medicine come in. The Western medicine, we were told they were coming to save us because we are dying like flies. Those who say we are dying like flies, where were they? How did we survive? Where Australian Aborigine died out. Where the Mayan civilization in South America died out. Where the the Reddidian in North America died out. We failed to die out because our way of life is very sustainable and it's very environmentally friendly. We are degenerating. We are on a retrogressive platform because we embrace non-sustainable practices, non-sustainable educational protocol and healthy protocol. And this is the reality. That's how we have got diseases we never had. That's how we have become more dependent on others for food, for medicine, for education. The truth is, a time is ripe for us to go back to the drawing board and pick the basic of our indigenous knowledge that makes us African. Mm-hmm. That is sustainable in Africa, that facilitates the prosperity we need to maintain the reputation of being the mother and the father of humanity and the mother and the father of human civilization. Organized medicine, organized education started in Africa, in Egypt. There's no dispute over that. Meaning, we were ahead of many other communities globally. And those basics, those aspects of indigenous knowledge that made us that are the ones we need to reawaken, reorganize them, re-embrace them. Then we start rolling through programs and strategy that are truly ours, that are determined by us, that are sustained by us, not by external forces. How can the very people who put you where you are make you better than you are? It can't. That's a fallacy. And that's why I'm saying, because of disruption of our cultural lifestyle at the grassroots, many of our people don't know who they are. Many of our people don't know what it is to be an African. And that's why we speak better English than our own mother tongue. That's how we are better in cooking the Western dishes than our own Mukimo food. Mm-hmm. Because these things were imposed on us, not accidentally, through a plan of making us a lesser being, a lesser subject, and eventually creating a scenario where we can destroy ourselves. I trained in Australia. I've seen the Aborigines. The last purebred Aborigine in Australia died in 1960. There's no racial problem in Australia. They died out. I've been to Peru. I'm a member of the International Association of Traditional Healers, based in Lima, Peru. I've been there. The Mayan civilization, their only ruins are remaining. Otherwise, South America belongs to the Spaniards and the Portuguese, people of European origin, not the indigenous people. I trained in New Mexico State University, where some of my children were born. The area, North America, belonged to the Reddidians. I don't remember meeting a single Reddidian during my study in US. It's like they don't exist. That is an Anglo-Saxon country. It's a country North America belongs to the Europeans. People of European origin who conquered, destroyed. And this is what Africa would have ended up being, were it not for our spirituality, our African indigenous knowledge, and the the fraternity, the lifestyle that requires others for you. You are because I am. I need my aunt, I need my uncles, I need my neighbor. That interaction makes communication easier.
The Ubuntu.
Yes, and it strengthens us. And this is what brought about the Mau Mau reawakening, where people can sit together, analyze where they were, analyze where they are, and clearly see where they are headed to. And they said, enough is enough. We have to stop it. And they stopped it. The Mau Mau uprising contributed significantly to the liberation of Africa.
Yes.
Mandela has said it. Nkrumah has said it. Museveni has said it. They all knew it. And it came when people realized they have negative things being imposed on them. Of course, there were seers who could see what is being planned for us. And there were other think tanks that could analyze what we are being told is progress is retrogression. And very quickly, people came together and they did what they did. Unfortunately, that fire was suppressed very, very quickly. And aggressive campaign was done to cheat us that there are new strategies of making us more liberated, making us economically better, and making us more, giving us more sustainable lifestyle. The program we were given had disrupted our families. They have disrupted the community harmony that enhances Africanism and African survival. It completely wiped out our indigenous seeds, our indigenous genetic material in times of livestock. And then coffee production, tea production, pyrethrum production, other things were imposed on us, which we don't need. We don't drink coffee. Very few of people drink coffee. Tea we did, but we didn't need it then. We had many other medicinal plants that made better tea than the common tea. But because of colonization, we were forced to, I was there, to disrupt those as being backward, barbaric. We were very close to our God. We had our Mount Kenya shrine where people went anytime they needed spiritual enrichment, and they got it. During drought, they go pray, they go back wet. During disease outbreak in livestock, in human, they go pray, the parasites, the germs melted out. And there are many examples of the spiritual prowess of our people and the holistic capacity of our people to coexist with reality, which is unique. When we talk about alternative technology, it's African way of life. I don't know of any other community globally who articulate natural things better than the African. And that's why we survived a situation that Australia didn't. North American indigenous people didn't. South American Mayan civilization didn't. Unfortunately, these are the dynamics we are abandoning. And this is what is giving us the retrogression we are in. And that's why we need to come together, listen together, and institutionalize liberational protocol that enable us to go back to our roots. A tree without roots is just as good as dead. Yes.
What's the role of our presidents in all this? Do you think the presidents we have right now across Africa, majority of them are also imposed onto us?
All of them have been. All of them have been imposed. And even the very good one, Mandela, Nkrumah, Kenyatta's, they were allowed to rule under very strict conditions. They did the very good few things they did that were positive under extreme difficulties. And many of them were saying it. Even our late President Moi said it severally. Hii mambo mimi staki, lakini nifanye nini? You know, he got into that under very strict conditions. Even when they are sympathetic about the motherland, about his people, they have limits as to what they can do. And a very good example is the late Tanzanian President Magufuli. When he challenged the COVID vaccine, COVID medication, he said, we don't need the vaccine. We don't need those COVID medicines that are being imposed on us. We have our own herbal medicine. It didn't last a month. He died. He was exterminated. So I'm saying most of those people who are leading us with the consent of the powers that control the world. There is a lot they can do within the protocol, what they agreed, and very little they can do to the contrary, and to address the retrogression, because the retrogression we are going through is a global New World Order protocol planned by powers that are beyond our presidents, powers that are beyond the combined energy and powers of all our African presidents.
Some people say the New World Order is a conspiracy theory. It's a lie. There's nothing like the New World Order. What do you say?
I have read it between the lines. I have had this discussion with people who have researched into it comprehensively, like the late Bishop Nicodemus Kerema, who chaired the commission that looked into that. And he invited me to his house. And when I went to his house, he said, so and so, I followed you closely. I'm very impressed by what you do. I'm very impressed by how you do it. But unfortunately, if you don't know who rules the world, you won't go very far. And he enlightened me in a lot of ways, and I thank him for that. But his research work concluded that those powers are there. They are entrenched in our governance, and they are not in our interest. And it is them that are causing the retrogression we are in. How to handle them, I don't know. But it's a reality. They're there.
Personally, are you never scared of talking the way you talk, of enlightening people? Have you faced any challenges in your journey?
A lot. I've been poisoned more than 6 times in those international conferences I've been to. Most of my colleagues have died as I wash. A lot of traditional healers of Kenya were poisoned in Egypt. They died, I think more than 12 of them died after a conference there. So, Mau were not going to the bush to survive. They were not going there to come back alive. But somehow, a time arises when what need to be done ought to be done for us to survive. And even if we don't survive, for our children to survive. In African tradition, we live for others. Mau people died for us. Without them, we would be talking what we are talking, where we are talking now. So, during any generation, liberational issues must be addressed. Otherwise, we'll perish, like the Aborigines, like the Mayan civilization in South America, like the Didian in North America, like many others in Canada. So, our survival requires, by the way, I'm a national hero. I'm a freedom fighter. My hero category is a freedom fighter. A freedom fighter is a selfless person. For your information, I didn't get into traditional medicine to make money. I got into traditional medicine to demonstrate that African indigenous knowledge has a lot to play in our recapturing our identity, dignity, and in our survival and prosperity. I did that after 1978, when I went to National Council of Science and Technology, after coming from US, after having been to Australia, then US. I realized in Australia, in US, even those people, they still respect their indigenous knowledge. The ones they came with from Europe. They do that in Australia, they do that in America, South America, and elsewhere. And I asked myself, how can we survive without our indigenous knowledge? When it is termed to be witchcraft, to be barbaric, does it mean we have to be European to survive? Can we survive as a European in Kenya? Can we replicate Europe in Africa? It's not. There are ecological limitations. Our attitude, our soils, our water are unique. And survival and prosperity means sustainable adaptation to the reality of our ecosystem and environment. When it is unique, it requires unique approach. That unique approach is the African way. That is the African way they have developed over millennia to survive, prosper, and even contribute to the rest of human civilization. And the minute we abandon that, we become a parasite. And many parasites survive at the mercy of the victim. And why should we accept to be parasites in our own motherland when God has been so gracious to us? What I mean by gracious, we survived where others didn't survive. We survived as a continent, as a continental people, still authentic, categorized as authentic African, where in Australia, the Aboriginal died out, the Mayan civilization died, the Redidian died out. So we should be proud of our own way of life, or our own culture. We should be proud of our own ancestors, particularly those who liberated, they gave us the liberation we have to where we are. But we have to sustain the momentum of total liberation, where we can feed ourselves freely with food that is beneficial to our health, not food that will nourish us today and kill us tomorrow from cancer because of the poisons in them, because of the chemicals in them. We have to safeguard our soils and our waters. And these are liberational concepts. Yeah. And they are contentious. I am aware I'm an enemy of many. Yes. Particularly those who are articulating Neo-Colonialism, because I'm confronting Neo-Colonialism. But it has to be confronted to survive. I have my children whom I would wish to have better lives than me, to have less struggle than I have gone through. To do that, I must guide them by showing them the controversies that are consistent with the retrogression we are going through. And that's why I talk out candidly, and I risk my life in that, because the tree of liberty is watered with blood. I didn't say it, it was said earlier. And it applies then just as it does now.
Now, earlier on, you were telling me you've had alternative medicine clinics across the country. Yes. What happened? Do you still operate those?
I didn't want to practice traditional medicine. I am a vet, and my specialty is animal science. But my paternal grandmother was a traditional healer. I grew in an environment where we were treated at home. But unfortunately, she died in 1960. And the time I interacted with her was at the peak of the emergency, when anything traditional was witchcraft. So none of us picked her practice. Then I went to study. I went to do human medicine. In Kenya, there weren't many medical schools to do human medicine.
Yes.
So I went to Egerton to do veterinary, and I did it. And I was good, so I had picked to specialize in Australia, in sheep and wool. Then, after I did that, I was in charge of FAO sheep and wool project in Kenya. I toured all the highlands of Kenya. And through training, extension education, supplying people with good breeding material, that way I interacted with many communities. The Kalenjin, the Maasai, the Kikuyu, the Kaba, the Meru. And those early 70s, late 60s, sickness rate was very high in Kenya because we had just come from colonialism. There were no hospitals. There were not enough doctors. So wherever I went, I encountered many sick people. And in the cardinal requirement in extension education is you meet your client from his or her priority problem. When you go to a farmer, before you talk about wool sheep, you want to know about their well-being.
Yes.
What their priority problem is. Because if their priority problem is not the wool sheep, they don't listen to it. So that time, the priority problem was sickness. They wanted medicine. Luckily, I had the know-how. I could get plants from within the area, make medicine, give them, that cured them. Wherever I went, I helped many. Word went that I was good at that. I was followed wherever I went. Eventually, I had to organize a center where people would come during the weekend. That was Kinango. Because the rest of working hours, I didn't have enough time. That's how I opened a center in late 70s in Kinango, early 70s. And I was treating people during the weekend. They came from all over. There were so many I couldn't cope with them. I was forced to open other branches in Nakuru, in Nairobi, in Nyeri. Eventually, I ended with 16 clinics all over Kenya. Mombasa, Nairobi, Embu, Meru, Nyeri, Nyahururu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Kericho, Kisumu, Kisii, Migori, and Maraba. I lived in my car for nearly 30 years, going to those clinics. Sometimes I did 2 clinics per day. Meru and, I said Meru and Nyeri were done. No, Embu and Meru were done one day. Kisumu and Eldoret were done the same day. A few had to be combined so that the week I could cover those areas. Surprisingly, they all benefited from my medicine. And as I traveled across the country, I interacted with many traditional people who had more knowledge on medicinal plants than I had, particularly medicinal plants of specific areas. So that's how I was able to gather a lot of knowledge. Then I documented over 20,000 medicinal plants of East Africa, which I use. I've been able to compare them. I can tell you which are the best. I'm in the process of coming out with probably the best 10, 20 that should be commercialized through establishment of plantation, like coffee. We did coffee. Coffee is a medicinal plant. Tea is a medicinal plant.
Coffee treats
Pyrethrum
what?
is a medicinal plant.
Coffee is used to treat what?
Circulatory problem. Yes. Tea, immunobooster, and a lot of minerals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pyrethrum is pesticidal. Kills them. So those were wild plants that have been domesticated and have been extensively commercialized. From my own research work, I know more than 10 that are better than coffee, tea, and pyrethrum. In terms of economics, in terms of their integrated utility value, these are the one I am thinking sooner or later will campaign that they are commercialized, that they are established into plantation before they die out or they are misused or exterminated. And I think a time is coming. And in my African Indigenous Knowledge and Traditional Medicine Training Center, I want to pick Mount Kenya region as a pilot area where, together with the people of Mount Kenya, we team up and with immediate effect from this year, we started growing our own organic food for our own and for our colleagues elsewhere. We start growing whatever medicinal plant we can grow where we live, so that sooner or later, we have the medicinal plant we need in abundance. So that later, we end up having with the Mount Kenya industry that can manufacture all the herbal medicine this region, this country, East African region, and possibly Africa needs. And if need to be, for the rest of the world. Why not? We grow coffee and tea and pyrethrum for the entire world. We are among the best growers of tea and coffee, the best quality tea and coffee, and the best pyrethrum in the world. Sooner or later, I can see a situation where the Mount Kenya region, due to the Aberdares ridges, and the Mount Kenya region, and our few valleys and grassland, we have more medicinal plants in this region than anywhere else in the world. And we should take advantage of it by first conserving it, protecting it, and then sustainably utilizing it. And where need be, we propagate what is scarce or what is threatened with extinction. I think That is the work of a leader, the work of leadership in indigenous knowledge, leadership in African dynamic, leadership in African spirituality. African spirituality recognizes that we didn't create ourselves. We have bigger beings that created us for a purpose that is better known by the entity. And we, each of us, like the spokes of a bicycle's wheel, was created for a role. My role is what I'm doing now. If others did their role passionately and aggressively, we can get Kenya to the next level very easily, and we can totally liberate Africa and get it on prosperity.
I agree.
Level. Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
What happened to the clinics?
The clinics were disrupted by ethnic conflict, ethnic violence and displacement of 1992, ethnic violence and displacement of 97, and the ethnic violence and displacement of 2000 was the worst. That one was so bad that I never picked even a table or anything from a lot of those clinics. And I was forced to confine my clinic to Nyeri, which is much more safer for me because near home, my parents, my relative could feed me because we came back as beggars. And then luckily I had this premises, which was designed and built as a hospital to cater for my outreach network. People, sick patients who needed inpatient from all my clinics would come to Nyeri. But before I started getting the area prepared for inpatient arrangement, we were displaced. I needed it to bring my family. I needed it to sustain my clinics. So that's why we use the broker board you can see to subdivide so that we have some living place, we have sleeping place, we have a kitchen, and ultimately I had a school where in 1987, my first application for African Renaissance International University goes back to 1987. The university was supposed to be at Lemruti, my 200 acres. Then, when we were processing the document, tribal crisis of 92-13, and then we abandoned it. We thought it would normalize, we go back there. 97 came, I gave up. That's when I decided to have my school in Nyeri, in the premises we are, because even the Commission for Education were very passionate about my ideas. They said, your ideas are too good. Don't give up. We'll help you start a diploma awarding center at Nyeri so that when things normalize, you can upgrade to a university. My passion for a university is this area of African indigenous knowledge and traditional medicine is grossly underrated as being of semi-literate people, the witch doctors and the rest. I wanted to create a platform where we can polish the indigenous knowledge, repackage it to undergraduate material that could be used by undergraduate, graduate and undergraduate people, so that later on Africa can contribute academically to the rest of the world. And we needed professionals in medicine, in engineering, professionals in nutrition and catering, using our own local material and our own indigenous knowledge to recapture our identity. Chinese eat their food the way they eat, with their shopping sticks. We don't use them, we use our hands. Their food is not our food. Our Mukimo food, to the best of my knowledge, is probably the most balanced dish I have ever encountered throughout my travel all over the world. Why did we abandon it? The vegetables are still there. The bananas are still there. The maize is still there. The beans are there. It's neo-colonial brainwashing. And these are the things which I will be demonstrating. These are the practices which I will embrace so that we educate our people participatorily. We encourage them to eat the food as we make the food, as we improve the making of those foods. Remember, Mukimo was a combination of maize, beans, diverse vegetables, bananas, a little bit of salt, a little bit of sodium bicarbonate.
Yes.
Then they were mashed together and then made into a lump. The bananas gave a covering that was protective. And they also give a gum to hold the lump together. And that enhanced its preservation. And you could keep that food on a week. You could eat it as it is. Or refry it or do whatever. I don't think we have a dish like that anywhere. I haven't encountered a dish like that anywhere else. Why did we abandon it? Why did we abandon our yams? Yams, research work done to date, is one of the dietary items that improves the brain power, intellectual prowess. And that's why it was food for the elderly people. Even those who didn't have to, they used to scrape into powder and eat it. Because they keep their mind alert, their mind active. Yet it has energy, a lot of vitamins and minerals. And remember how it grows. It takes very little space. Goes downward and upwards. And it creates room for others. And they grew together with maize, with beans, with bananas, with cassava. Then we go to monoculture where you grow maize alone, beans alone. Very primitive. And we are told it's modernity. I didn't know modernity is primitive. But when we go really to scientific analysis, it is primitive, very primitive. Because maize alone does not utilize the soil fully. Yeah. Maize alone doesn't fight the pests. But a combination of yam, cassava, beans, sweet potato, all those things discourages a lot of pests. So our traditional agriculture is much more sustainable than the Western protocol of agriculture. It's much more reliable, much more secure. If the maize fails because there is not enough rain, the cassava is there. The banana is there. The sweet potatoes are there. If it's a whole acre of maize, if the rain is not adequate and they fail, you are done and you die of starvation. That's why it is primitive. And remember, when we make maize with beans we call them leguminous. They pick nitrogen from there, bring it to the soil, which is good for the maize. And beans and maize are not competing. The nutritional requirement is not the same. When bringing the yam, which climbs up there, it doesn't interfere with the sweet potatoes. They can go together. This wisdom is precious, it's unique. Yet we were told it's primitive and barbaric. And we had to go to agricultural college to be taught how to be primitive. Yes, so I am appealing to our Kenyan people, to African people, that God is on our side. If he wasn't on our side, we would have perished like many other civilizations. In Australia, in South America, in North America. The fact that we have survived this far, the fact that we can still talk, the fact that our independence gives us leeway to choose what we need, let's come together and choose to do what is African and what is sustainable and what is consistent with the prosperity we need in Africa to recapture our lost identity, our lost dignity and integrity.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Can I ask something?
Ask.
How old are you?
I'm 80.
80.
Yes.
How does your diet look like?
My diet is very, very simple. I like peas, beans, traditional vegetables, some little maize where applicable. I am not a fan of too much carbohydrate. I don't mind doma. This is what do you call them?
Doma is aruru.
Aruru. Yes, I like aruru.
Yes.
I like roasted potatoes, roasted aruru. I like yams when they are available. Cassava occasionally. I stopped eating red meat in 1969. I was in college then. I take white meat, chicken, fish, little, once in a while.
Nyama choma, no?
That's not for me. Too strong for me. I like quickly digestible food, and I like little food many times a day. And other than tea, I don't know many other drinks. Yes.
Medicine.
Yeah, herbal medicine and my ordinary tea occasionally. I take my herbal tea.
You don't do like, when was the last time you did Western medicine? The Panadols, the Brufens?
Never. Only when I had emergency. I was raided when I went to my clinic, and I was injured here. I had to be rushed to hospital. They had to do surgical repair of my knee. That's the only time. Oh, when I need medical sheet completed, because as a wishy doctor, I can't complete my sheet.
So there's still a lot of...
Even my children didn't know capsules. They were calling capsules beans because all their life they have been on that medicine. From birth to whatever. Unless in an emergency away from here, they don't. We take this natural because it's much more effective, much more safer, much more readily available.
And it's the truth.
Yes. And I decided to demonstrate that indigenous knowledge is viable. Indigenous practices are viable by taking one line. Because I didn't have the capacity to take all those other disciplines of technology simultaneously. That is, after practicing for about 10 years, when I was in the papers, I told my wife, look, medicine alone cannot liberate people. Liberation requires articulation of the entire spectrum of technology simultaneously. Because diverse technical disciplines are interlinked. Agriculture and health, engineering and environment, agriculture and environment, all those things, education and health, they are interlinked. So that's why I brought the idea of the School of Alternative Medicine and the Institute of African Indigenous Knowledge and Traditional Medicine Training Institute together to try to cover all those diverse disciplines in an African way.
Beautiful.
I pulled my children out of school en masse to learn their learning at home, the traditional way. I was in court for 3 years, defending my decision, and I was left alone. And they are very proud of that experience.
Wow.
Yes, but that was very controversial. Then I was almost in court once because of starting the Mount Kenya interfaith worship, where I said, if the churches are not giving us the spiritual protection we need, why don't we go where our fathers were going? Mount Kenya. And I started the Mount Kenya interfaith prayers, interfaith pilgrimage, where you pray the way our people prayed. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
We have more churches than schools everywhere. Yet, the moral fabric of our societies
It's rotten.
completely rotten. How come? How come? Yet, our people used to go to Mount Kenya, they pray, they get the rain. They pray, they get the locusts, menace, melt out. Actually, they die en masse. It means, I think even the West are aware of the potentiality of African spirituality. That's why it was target number 1. Completely substituted with their superficial spirituality. Because without disrupting it, they wouldn't have conquered us. But now that we are aware, and Mount Kenya is there, Mount Kenya is a shrine for the Kikuyu, for the Meru, for the Kamba, for the Redire, for the Kalenjin, for the Maasai. Actually, it's a shrine for more than 3/4 of the people of this country. That's why our flag was taken there at independence. That's why a constitution was taken there. The new constitution was taken there. It's a special. Why abandon it? Why not go to the source of spiritual energy when you need it, the way our forefather did it? So I have established what we are calling African Renaissance Interfaith Shrine on Mount Kenya. And we are in the process of building a pyramid, which is a benchmark, a traditional way of African benchmarking their shrine. It's common in Egypt, common in Zimbabwe. Why not here? So that once in a while, we can go there for spiritual recharging. Here, people go to church every Sunday. And they do. Those are the messes, people do.
Yes.
In between. And then go there. But it's not consistent with our spirituality. Our spirituality, where once you recognize God the Almighty, once you swear to conform to the dictate of God the Almighty, you remain faithful wherever you are. Well, regardless of whom you are working with or you are interacting with.
You remain faithful.
Yes. Spirituality, African spirituality was real. Very powerful. It has to be rejuvenated. It has to be propagated. And we are on the right track.
We are.
Yes.
And the
the Mau Mau, by the way, how can Mau Mau conquer the British Empire? A band of a few people, illiterate people, with crude weapons, bows and arrows. People who had airplanes, spiritually. It is their spirituality. It is the linkage with the source of power that enhances their survival, enhances their capacity to challenge the foreign force. So we need it. And I know that because my uncle, the one I'm named after, is the one who took Dedan Kimathi Wachuri to our local shrine to pray before he went to the bush. I am the custodian. That shrine is still there, where Kimathi prayed before he went to the bush. Where he asked God, we have been cornered. We have done our best. Without you, we can't make it. With you, we know we shall make it. God, allow us to defend our country. With you, we'll make it. If we don't, you have failed. If we make it, you have made it.
Beautiful.
And they made it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Allow me to wind up. I'm not sure. God, I could go on and on and on and on.
So can I.
Me?
For months.
I could go on and on and
Yes,
on, but
yes.
Allow me to wind up for now.
You're welcome.
Maybe come back so that you can be able to walk us through our indigenous herbs, things that we could be
You're
able
welcome.
to use for
You're welcome.
certain
You're welcome.
diseases here and there. I would love to come and document that for our
You're
audience. But before maybe I wind up, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
I want to leave behind a legacy of people who know themselves. A legacy of a African continental population that are proud of their Africanism, that are proud of the African culture, cultural norms, values, and traditions, their medicine, their foods, their mode of education, and a continental population that respects nature. Nature is God, that it aspires to coexist, sustainably coexist with the reality of the ecosystem. We are because of the soil, the air, and the water surround us. The minute we destroy it, contaminate it, we destroy ourselves. My legacy is, in Africa, we can recapture our lost identity. We can recapture our lost glory. We are a blessed continent. That's why we survived. What other continent didn't survive? Let's get closer to our God. Let's conform to our cultural norms and values that evolve from the reality of our ecosystem. And together, we shall make it and liberate ourselves. And once we are liberated, we shall liberate the rest of the world. After all, we are the mother and father of human civilization and all human knowledge, because it all evolved from Africa. Thank you.
2 books you can recommend our audience to look at?
They can look at my papers on African religion I gave in Moi University.
Yes.
They can also look at how indigenous knowledge can complement conventional knowledge, a paper I gave at University of Bremen in Germany, and the many other papers I've given at Kenyatta University, Kimathi University, and I'm in the process of writing a few books and among other things, monographs
Good.
on integrated utility value of medicinal plants of the world.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate this
Thank you very
moment.
much.
I don't take it for granted
Thank
that you've taken your time to sit and educate us.
Thank you.
We've learned, we've unlearned, and we are relearning
Thank you.
one story at a time. Do you want to add anything? Or shall we wind up?
Only thank you, and thank you, the media. I think this is important. Were it not for the media, I don't think I'll be practicing. It's the media who started featuring me. I recognize the late Mogo, formerly of Nation. And he was what paper? The late Mogo who died in Cameroon, plane crash, and many others who have featured me, because it's through them that people have come to know who I am, what I live for, and what we can do together to make Africa better than it is, and to elevate Africa and Africanism to the next level.
Great.
Thank you for your coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank
effort.
you too for your time. Wow, what a moment, guys. Do you have a question? Anyone? We are good? Right. What a conversation, and honestly, I can't wait to see your feedback on the comment section. For me, it's been a learning experience. That's why I honestly did not say much, because he really educated me, and I feel that's the essence of our platform, and that's the intention of this platform. From now henceforth, I really want us to be able to look back and remember, where do we come from? There are so many things I know a lot of people want us to forget. There are things I know people don't want us speaking about, but as you've heard, you must be able to want to leave a legacy where the African people know themselves and they are proud of themselves. So let me know on the comment section what your take home is, and who else would you want me to feature on this platform from across the country, across the continent. I saw a lot of you asking us to go to Burkina Faso and feature the president, and I hope that's a dream that will one day come true, because I recognize that we also have African leaders who are taking us back to who we should be. So let me know on the comment section also, who else would you want to see on the platform, and also if there's anything you can't say publicly on the comment section, info@lnn.digital. That's where you can be able to find us. A huge shout out to Mbaria for connecting me to this gentleman. I appreciate you, and I hope that we can continue impacting our nation one story at a time. Thank you also to our partners at TapTap. Send money with them from diaspora to Kenya if you can. The details are on the screen. And to my amazing team for putting this work together, and you who is watching for getting us to over 1 million subscribers. Remember, subscribing is free. Just do it. Turn your notification button on so that you don't get to miss any of our episode. See you maybe tomorrow, 10 a.m. or 7 p.m. Bye-bye.